Hi, Kerry here from MyCloud Bookkeeping. I work with small businesses and entrepreneurs, and if you've been following my channel, you'll know I work mainly in QuickBooks Online and discourage you from using journal entries in your file. As an accountant, there are times where I do need to post a journal entry in QuickBooks Online. I'm going to explore some of the situations in which you may need to post a journal entry, how to create it, and get those debits and credits around the right way. First, let's consider some scenarios where you may be entering a journal entry in your QuickBooks Online file. So first is amortization and depreciation. Year-end amortization or depreciation of your asset is an excellent example. For most small businesses and entrepreneurs, this information will be provided by your tax accountant and entered with the year-end journals. However, if you have a high value of assets in your business, it may be worthwhile entering the expense each month to keep track of your actual profit and also be able to project your income tax expense and any bonus or loan covenants that are impacted by your net income or net profit after depreciation or amortization. Secondly, accrued expenses. This is something you record when you know you have expenses coming and have not received your bill or invoice from the supplier yet. You want to be sure to record the costs, but it's not accounts payable because you don't have the bill yet. Our third example is prepaid expenses. A good example of prepaid expenses would be your insurance premium. This is usually paid annual and applies to the entire year. When you receive the bill or pay the premium, you record that cost to prepaid expenses and then apply a monthly expense and reduce the prepaid amount throughout the year. This ensures that you don't have a large cost in one month and nothing for the other months, so you can see properly what your net income is across the year. The fourth one, deferred income. If you receive payment in full for services not yet delivered, that would be considered deferred income. An excellent example would be if you deliver a SaaS service that's provided over a full year and paid up front. A journal entry is a perfect way to allocate that income if you're not using QuickBooks Online Advanced, which has a revenue recognition feature. Now, doubtful debts. I'm not sure if you've heard this term or not, but if you have an old amount outstanding from a customer and you don't want to write it off yet, you're still hoping you'll collect it. However, you don't want to include it in your income or profit, as there's a reasonable chance you won't collect it. By posting a journal entry, you can reduce the amount of accounts receivable on your balance sheet and show an offsetting expense that can be easily reviewed and monitored so that it's either reversed when the funds are collected or completely written off when there is no chance and you have a bad debt. Okay, finally, I'm going to talk about dividends or bonuses declared at year end. Your tax preparer will often declare dividends or bonuses when the final profit number is known. Also, shareholder loan balances are often cleared to dividends by your accountant. Now, there are legal ramifications to this, so don't do it if you don't have the proper advice, but this is another time you would use a journal entry. Okay, so now we have an idea of the types of transactions that we would do a journal for. How do we know what to debit and what to credit? If you'd like to understand a little more about why some of the journal entries were created, be sure to watch all the way through, stay to the end, and you'll get to see the impact on your reports of the journal entries we posted. So let's take a look at a balance sheet in QuickBooks Online as a starting point.
We are in QuickBooks Online with both a balance sheet and an income statement open. I'm going to start by looking at the balance sheet. You can see here we have money in the bank, accounts receivable, other current assets, fixed assets. All of these things here obviously make up our assets section, and these are debits. So when we're looking at the assets section of the balance sheet, these are all debit accounts. And we're going to scroll down a little bit further and we'll have a look here. The total for our assets is $46,825.52. We're going to pop down here to the bottom and look at this, $46,825.52, our balance sheet balances, which means our total debits for the assets are $46,825. That kind of tells you that this section down here, our liabilities and our equity, are our credits, because the debits and the credits, they must equal each other. That's just accounting law. So liabilities, as you can see here, accounts payable, credit cards, things that you owe. Now, something here looks a little odd. Here we have a minus sitting in our liabilities section. So clearly that should be showing up as an asset. Most likely it's an advance payment of some taxes. So when we're looking at a liability section or an asset section, if we see a minus, we know that that actually belongs in the other section of the balance sheet. Another one that's a little bit interesting, and it doesn't show up quite here yet, is when we get to dividends in our equity section. They're going to be a deduction from our income, because if we think about it, we have our earnings and then we pay out a dividend. So that's another time where you might see a minus sitting on your balance sheet. What we're going to do now is have a quick look at the income statement. Here we have our income statement, and the first section we can see here is income. Now this income section these are all credit balances. Might sound a little bit odd, but let's think about this. If we sell something, we get money. So we increase our sales, and if I pop back over here to the balance sheet, we'll then also increase the money in the bank or our accounts receivable. So the first section, income, is a credit. Now we scroll down here and we have cost of sales and expenses. I'm just going to collapse them up a little bit so we can see them more clearly. These expenses are all debits. So anytime we're recording an expense, that is a debit entry. Let's think about that. We're taking money out of our bank, so we're reducing the amount of money we have in the bank here so that we're crediting the bank in order to debit our expenses. Let's just follow this through. Anytime you want to increase a debit account, you debit it. If you want to increase a credit account, you credit it. Anytime we want to reduce something, it's the opposite. If we want to reduce a debit account, we credit it. And if we want to reduce a credit account, we debit it. Are you confused yet? There's an acronym that really helps some people. It's dealer. Dividends, expenses, assets, liabilities, equity, and revenue. And if you can remember that, you can easily see that the first side are debits and the second side here are credits. Now that doesn't really help me. I'm kind of not much of an acronym person. I can never get those colors of the rainbow straight. But if that does help you, just, I don't know, maybe I'll pop that little dealer page down below and you can download that and it might just help you. Now that we understand about debits and credits, let's take a look at a journal entry. Here I've selected an item that is typically in a journal entry. Yes, I mentioned at the beginning, and this is our depreciation on a truck. So my first entry is debiting the depreciation expense. And then our next line, the credit, reduces the value of that truck. It's a sub-account of truck. It's depreciation that shows that the value of our truck to us on our balance sheet has been reduced. Let's take a look at another one. And here we have an increase in accounting fees. Accounting expense is a debit. And then we've created a credit for accrued expenses. This is a typical year-end entry where the accountant says it's going to cost $5,000 for the work that I've done, and I want to make sure that it's recorded in the correct year. Now, let's take a look at the next one. This is prepaid insurance. So what we're doing here, as you can see, slightly different. Prepaid expenses is something that we've put a debit into, and insurance expense has got a credit. So that must mean that we're reducing insurance. We'll take a look at how this plays out in the actual reports in a moment, but I want you to see these debits and credits before we get through and see the impact on our reports. So let's look at the next one. This is another typical entry, and this is deferred income. I'll show you in a moment why we've done this, but we have taken an income category and we've debited it, which must mean we're reducing our income. So at the top here, we have deferred income, which is a liability account, and we're crediting that. And what's our next journal entry to look at? Here we have an interesting one. We have an expense, doubtful debts, and a credit to provision for doubtful debts. Now, the reason I say this is interesting is because quite often at year end, accountants want to do entries against accounts receivable, and it just creates a mess. If you create a provision for doubtful debts account that is on your balance sheet, you'll have a credit balance on the balance sheet. We'll take a look in a moment. And then your doubtful debts is an expense that will show up, as a debit. And by doing this, you don't end up messing up accounts receivable. And I'll show you why we've done this. And here we have a credit to shareholder advance, and the dividends we talked about earlier, a debit, we're paying out those dividends. So now let's take a look and we'll see what's happened and why we've done these and what it does to our reports. You can see here I have an accounts receivable report that shows the Red Rock Diner have a very old amount of $156. So this is why I chose to do a doubtful accounts for that one. If you're looking at your accounts receivable report regularly, then you'll be able to see if something's getting old. Now, given that we've done some work for them quite recently and they've got a very new invoice here, they most likely will pay. But just in case you may have an old amount, creating a provision for doubtful accounts and using a journal entry is a perfect way to deal with that. Now here we can see an invoice that includes 52 weeks of gardening services, and this full $7,800 was included in our income. Now clearly we have not yet delivered that service, therefore we have not earned that income. That's typically something you'll see more often in a SaaS company, but the sample company does landscaping, so I decided to invoice Cool Cars for a full year's landscaping. So that is why we did a journal entry, to reduce the income and to increase the liability. Because if they've paid us and we have not provided the service yet, then it's a liability. If for some reason we cannot deliver that service, we owe them their money back. So that is why we did the deferred revenue entry. So I've run a balance sheet here so that we can see the differences from the day we were looking at before. Here's the previous period through to the date that I posted the journal entries on. The first change we see is that we have prepaid expenses here of $9,000. I'll show you a moment in the income statement where the full amount of the insurance premium had been recorded in 1 month. So what we want to do is recognize that we have prepaid this and amortize that across the period that we're going to use it. Now the next row is our provision for doubtful accounts. That's the Red Rock Diner amount we were just talking about. I'd actually like to see it displayed up here with the accounts receivable, but unfortunately the limitations of QuickBooks, I can't do that. And this is one of those times where you see a credit entry in the debit section in the assets. If we have another look down here, our next change was the $5,000. There was a shareholder advance of $5,000, and our journal entry, you may remember, moved that to dividends. So we'll see that when we move down further. Now here's another interesting display. The depreciation amortization against our truck shows up here. So if we have a look now, the value of our truck is $12,145.50, and that recognizes that we're using up the value of our truck over time. Scroll down a little more. Accrued expenses $5,000. You might recall that was an adjustment for the accounting fees. That's showing up here as a liability, and that credit has increased it. We'll scroll down a little bit more and we have yet another minus in our equity section, in our credit section, and these are the dividends that we talked about earlier. We're now showing a loss in our net income, and I'm guessing that's because I kind of messed around with the deferred income and insurance and stuff. Ideally, you're not paying dividends when you've got a loss, but we do have retained earnings to pay that from, so I guess it's not so bad. Let's grab that income statement back again and we'll take a look at that. It's a little more difficult to show the movement in an income statement right up to the period, but I'm going to scroll down and we'll take a look at what we did change. So our maintenance and repair earlier was a lot higher because it included that full $7,800, and that is now gone. Scroll down a little bit further and you'll see that we have accounting, which has been increased by $5,000 because of the accrued expenses. Insurance has been reduced because we pulled that $9,000 out that didn't belong there. Doubtful debts here, 156. That's to represent the fact that we may not receive that money. And here we have our depreciation, of course, for the truck. And those are really the only changes that we made on the income statement. But you can see how Where we've done a debit to income here, we've reduced the income. When we've done a debit to our expenses, which is down here further, for example, for the accounting, we've increased. So this is how you know what's happening with a debit or a credit.
Remember, if you would like to increase the value of an account, you match the debit or the credit, i.e., you debit a debit account, the assets, expenses, and dividends, or you credit a credit account, the income, liabilities, and equity. If you would like to reduce them, you do the opposite. Now, I offered you a couple of different ways to kind of understand debits and credits, which is easy for you. Looking at your reports and thinking about whether or not you're increasing or decreasing the different categories, or are you more of an acronym person? And dealer is an easier way for you to remember. In most cases, if you're using QuickBooks, if you get it wrong, you can go back and fix it. This is accounting, it's not brain surgery. If we make a mistake, it's usually easy to fix. Do keep in mind that journal entries should not be part of your day-to-day bookkeeping or accounting, and it's extremely bad practice to post a journal entry to a bank account and a red flag to an auditor. And if you post journal entries to your sales tax account, you're likely making a mess that could make it extremely difficult to properly correct. So knowing how to do journal entries is only one part. Knowing when to use them is even more important. I hope that helps, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheers.